So, how are you today? Welcome back to Colorado Springs and welcome to my world yet again. We're going to be talking about this painting behind me, which again comes from There Once Was a Kitty Who Traveled. But before we do that, I'm just going to ask you a couple of things. How do you how are you in the world? Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you an empath? Are you an intuitive? Are you a creative? Are you right-brained? Are you left-brained? Are you kind of in the center of all that? How do you work in the world? How does that work for you? Do you like to be with other like-minded people in community a lot? Or do you prefer standing on your own and being unique and having your own way of doing things and kind of taking a different spin on things all the time and creatively doing something different in different ways? How does that work in your family? How did that work in the roots of which you came from? And how does that influence you? There's all kinds of books out about that kind of thing these days, and how we go about being individual people who we are, and how we come to peace with what we are. I know that as I'm becoming more mature in life, I'm not going to say older, but as I'm becoming more mature, I'm becoming more comfortable with not fitting in. I've always wanted to be like one of the many, or be one of the that fit in, but yet everything in my life, if I look at just about everything in my life, the family I came from was unique and different. My dad was a minister for years, for 45 years, as was my grandfather, my uncles, my great-grandfather, clear back to my great-great-great-grandfather. There were people in my family who were healers, that were prophetic, who were psychic, if you will, both men and women. How does that fit in with who I am? I understand my heritage because I'm related to a lot of famous people. So you can look up their heritage and go, oh yeah, look who I'm related to. But that helps to kind of identify some of the things that I do because of the cultural aspects of the different people that of the people that whose shoulders I stand upon. So it's just interesting to see how that works. I come from very creative people. My dad it was a very creative man, and my mother was as well, even though she didn't really do as much with it as he did. And even in his 80s and 90s, he was still creating, doing what it is he could do with the capability that he had at the time. And I'll share with you some of his artwork sometimes, some of the things he did, which I just love what he did. And so I believe I got that creative bent from him. But, if we love what we do, that is the thing. And how can we take what it is we're doing, and adapt it actually into different ways of doing what we do? If it's painting something different, or creating something unique in a new way, or sewing some clothes, or whatever that might be. It might be, some way to do some gardening, or some way to share with people. I have a neighbor who is a very giving woman, and she's always giving different things to people. She has a limited budget, but she's so kind in all the gifts that she gives people. And she shares these things with all the neighbors, and she kind of takes great pride of being like the kind and loving, giving neighbor. And she does it so well. And so how do you do what it is you do so well? How do you share that with other people and extend that to yourself as well, knowing that this gift that you have is something that's so very powerful and so very wonderful? So we have this story of Digit that is in the book of There Once Was a Kitty Who Traveled. And there's another story I told you about where she went to England and she was in the tower trying on the crown jewels. Well, this one is where she gets lost at Buckingham Palace and everybody can't find her, and they're just kind of in a panic. But then, the guard that has to stand there, he can't move because he has to be very still, and he has to, I don't know how long they have to stand there, but, people stand in front of them and they try to be silly, and that guard has to stand there and just not move. So he's in this place, and Digit has found her way on top of his head, and is on top of this furry hat, which is black. This is actually a dyed black fur, and she falls asleep on there. Now, Digit actually in real life would fall asleep, and you would find her on things that were black. I have a black robe that's kind of a chenille, and you would find her laying on that robe, and you wouldn't find her anywhere. And then it's like, oh, well, let me go find the darker things that are sitting around the house. And I had a big blanket that was, it looked like black fur, and then it had like a furry edge on it that was a different color, but you find her in the midst of that. So she was constantly doing things like that. So that's why I came up with this idea to paint her like this. But she was a spirited animal and always did all kinds of things. She was very unique. I've never known a cat like her. Of course, who knew? Cats are so uniquely different, and so I think very spiritual animals. And she would show up for me when I really needed extra care. If there was, she went through me with me through my divorce, and she would lay on my shoulder. I would be on my side. She'd lay on her shoulder, and she'd put her paw on my cheek, and I'd fall asleep hearing her purr in my ear. And so she did things like that, and she was just such a cute little thing, but highly spirited. So it would not have been unlike her to do something like this. This was pretty close to what she may have done. And of course, his response is quite funny too, because he's got this tail there and he can't move, and there he is. So, where are you showing up in your life, and whatever it is that you're doing in your life that's so very unique and different? What do you do to extend yourself in a greater way for your own sake and for what it is you're doing to serve the world? And I'd love to hear about it. And let me know in the comments. And until we talk again, please know that we're all in this together. And I love you. Bye.